also be. My Father will honor the one who serves me. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So we bow our heads in prayer. We thank and praise you, Lord, that you always welcome strangers and those from the outside world. We thank you for your gift of hospitality and also for your willingness to both give yourself in public service to the point of total sacrifice and to call those who would follow you to sacrifice themselves in your service. And so we pray for this council meeting. We pray that you will lead and guide each person who prays and speaks and thinks and contributes. We pray that you will lead and guide them, that they may have the best purposes for the council and for the people of Blackpool in their hearts and minds, and that in all that we do, your glory will be raised, your name praised. And we ask it in your name, Lord. Amen. We say together the family prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Cox. Please be seated. Thank you. Right, councillors, item 1, any declarations of interest? Councillor Wright. Sorry?
Tram extension, Mr Mayor. I'm on the board of Blackpool Transport.
Thank you. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Also a personal interest as being a non-executive director of Blackpool Transport.
Thank you. Anything else?
Item 6, Tramway extension, personal interest, director of Blackpool Transport.
Thank you. Any further declarations of interest? No, thank you. We move on to item 2, minutes of the last meeting of the 21st of September. Is everybody agreed I sign them as a true record? Right, announcements. One announcement, we do have to welcome Councillor David Collett onto the council. Congratulations, Councillor Collett. I think I can safely say your father would be very proud. And I think that's all there is under the announcement.
Perhaps, if, with your permission, Madam Mayor, perhaps rather a breach of protocol, I'm sure, of some sort. But
not you.
No, not me. Perish the thought. I would just like to take this opportunity, I mean, in addition to all of the messages of support that I know you've had, just to pass on behalf of not just the Labour group, but the whole of the council, our condolences for the loss of your husband, Chris. It's a very difficult time for you. I know that you've chosen to do what you do and to work through it and to just keep going. But we do all recognise how difficult it is for you at the moment. We thank you for your service now and in the past and in the future, and want you to know that we're all standing alongside you at this very difficult time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn, and to everybody. And can I just say, I have very much appreciated the messages and the cards and flowers that have been sent. They really have helped. And thank you to those who donated in Chris's memory to the Mayor's charity. Thank you. Right, item 4 is the resolution of condolence for Councillor Tony Brown. And can I ask you first to stand for a minute's silence in respect to Councillor Brown? Thank you. Councillor Williams, I believe you are moving the resolution.
I'd be pleased to move the motion, Madam Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Do we have any other speakers?
Peter Callow. Councillor Callow is going to speak on behalf of our group.
Thank you. Councillor Callow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just say that once again I've been asked to say a few words about my dear friend Tony on this very sad occasion. Maxine and I had known Tony and Angela for 30 years or more, and at that time they discussed with us joining the Conservative Party. This they duly did, and at his death Tony had been a councillor for Warbrek Ward for a number of years. Tony was a hard worker and was always a gentleman. I wish you'd remember that, please, a gentleman, because he really was. When I was the leader of the council, Tony was one of my staunchest supporters, helping me in very many ways, and so I was absolutely delighted when he accepted my invitation to be my deputy when I became the mayor last year. The team representing this great town of ours was me, the mayor, Maxine, the mayoress, although she had previously held the position of mayor herself, Tony, deputy mayor, and Angela, deputy mayoress. We couldn't have asked for better, and I can honestly say there wasn't a cross word said throughout the whole year, and that's something to say. Tony wasn't very well after the mayoral year ended, and so he and Angela went on a Caribbean cruise in order to relax, during which time Tony suffered a massive heart attack and never recovered. Tony himself was due to be the mayor next year, but sadly this was not to be. Such a tragic loss. Tony and I used to rag each other, and this was mentioned at the crematorium as well. Tony and I used to rag each other about our service in the forces. He was in the army, whilst I served in the Royal Navy, Fleet Air on. Of course, I didn't let him forget, not for a minute, that I was in the senior service, whilst he was just in the army. Sorry for anybody else who was just in the army. Anyway, something else. I was also on 849 Squadron. That was a Ghana early warning squadron. That was based on the Ark Royal when we exercised in the Arctic waters. Obviously it was freezing cold up there, and at times all he did was serve in the army. Oh yes, he served in the army, and I was up there in the freezing cold with the Russians shadowing us all over the place at every turn. And so, where was Tony? Well, he was in Hong Kong, sunbathing. So, he didn't really like that, but childish it may be, but it was harmless fun. And we had a lot of harmless fun, Tony and I. But there we are. Tony, we will all miss you, and the town will be the poorer without your presence. And I'm sure we all think that. He did a marvellous job for the town, just as we all try to do, and he was a gentleman throughout. Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. To receive, I've become rather used, unfortunately, over the past 5.5 years, to getting a phone call, either from the Chief Executive or from Mr. Towers, first thing in the morning or at the weekend. And unfortunately, when that call comes, it is almost invariably bad news. We've lost an awful lot of colleagues in that time. And this time was no different when my phone rang early on a Sunday morning to tell me that sadly Tony had passed away whilst on holiday. He's been here for longer than me. He was here when I arrived in 2003, having been elected in 2000. We served on a number of different committees together in the early days. He always had a reputation as being, as we used to refer to him, Callow's fixer. He was the Tory group chief whip when they wouldn't listen to Peter, when they wouldn't listen to Maxine even. Tony somehow managed to persuade them to vote in the right way. I discovered today one of his methods of persuading people to vote in the right way was to tell them that if they didn't, he'd report them to Mr. Towers. Until Mr. Towers found out that that's what he was doing and was told in no uncertain terms that you're not supposed to do that. But always innovative. He was always prepared with a question or a comment, usually written by Peter, but always ready. And you could tell, you could see him sitting in his seat, shifting about, waiting to get up as Peter sort of looked at him or winked at him. And you knew always where it had come from. What amused me particularly about his role as Tory Chief Whip was that from time to time, by virtue of his name being towards the start of the alphabet, he would vote with us. Because after my name had been read out and I'd say yes, he just automatically said yes. And it was greatly to my pleasure that the Tory Chief Whip voted for at least one of our budgets and a couple of other things as well. But to his great credit, he made great fun of that himself. You know, he would poke fun at what he would refer to as his own dopiness. And that's exactly what you want in a colleague and in a servant of a town like ours. You can't afford to take yourself too seriously, and Tony never did that. He was, as Councillor Callow said, due to be mayor in May of this year, and I do feel that is a particularly sad loss, not just for Angela and the family, but also for us, because I'm sure that year would have been a whole lot of fun. He would have put his heart and soul into it. They would have made a superb mayor and mayoress, as they made a superb deputy mayor and mayoress. He was, like me, not from Blackpool originally, but wore his heart on his sleeve and was very passionate about the people whom he represented, even if sometimes that meant coming into conflict with his own colleagues. He had a very strong commitment to the people that he represented. We never spent huge amounts of time together. However, there was one occasion when I was asked to speak at the unveiling of the memorial to our blue light servicemen and women who've lost their lives in pursuit of their duties as ambulance staff, police officers, fire officers and lifeguards and the RNLI staff. And we unveiled the beautiful memorial which is up in Ging Gardens there. And we sat in the Savoy Hotel waiting for it to stop raining. Right? It rained and rained and rained. And as everyone will know, that particular part of the town is pretty wild in bad weather. But there was all of these people had turned up. This was the culmination of 5 years worth of fundraising activity. So we went and we stood, and I don't think I've ever been as wet in my entire life, which is fine for me in my 59 quid Primark suit, right? But Councillor Brown, of course, was always, as Councillor Callow reminds us, was a gentleman. And one of the hallmarks of a gentleman, of course, he was always extremely well presented, and I suspect quite expensively dressed, presumably by Angela. And the pair of them were absolutely soaked to the skin. We went back into the Savoy Hotel afterwards to have a cup of coffee and try and warm up again. And the amount of humour which poured from both of them, despite their rather unfortunate state, was captivating. The number of people that they knew in the local community and were able to talk to, and the recognition that they had, I think was, you know, just absolutely superb. So once again, I'm afraid, Madam Mayor, another servant of the council is lost to the council, to their family, and to the people of Blackpool. And the condolences of the Labour group go to Angela. And, you know, a very, very sad time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? No? Well, thank you to those speakers. I have been told that Angela was hoping to watch this on the web cam that's going out. And I think they will be pleased to hear what high esteem Tony was held in. I totally agree, he was a gentleman at all times, a gentleman of every type, and he will be a sad loss to the council, and our condolences do go out to Angela and family. Right, can we have the vote please on the resolution? All those in favour? We are unanimous, thank you. We move on to item 5, the executive reports, starting at page 9, the leader of the council, Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I heard that, Councillor Kane. Thank you very much. Happy to present my my report, Madam Mayor, and will attempt as ever to answer any questions that are asked of me, although I doubt there'll be any tonight.
Oh. I do love an optimist. We will take it by page as usual, starting page 9. Any questions or comments? I'm sorry, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm referring to the Combined Authority, and I'm sure the leader will be aware that quite recently Lincolnshire, I believe, pulled out from this and thereby scuppering the whole of the Combined Authority arrangement for that area. And the Minister at CLG actually said if you're not all in, it's not going to happen. Subsequently, I believe that Kings Lynn and Norfolk have also joined in that, and their combined authorities will not go ahead. It's looking more precarious as we go on, and there are now 3 local councils in the North East who are pulling out of their combined authority. So we're seeing a trend here. And of course, we're all aware that Wyaborough Council are firm that they will not join this partnership. Can we really think this is going to work? Are we going to get scuppered? Are we wasting our time? Would we not be better looking at a combined authority between Wyre, Blackpool and Fylde, which is exactly what's happening in the North East? That surely is a better proposition. It's better for Blackpool. It's better for the coastal region. Economically, we've got 2 enterprise zones. We've got more to offer, but less to gain.
Councillor Clapham.
It's not the same item. It's the first one, where it says sundry debt collection 88%, significantly higher, etc. We've not got the related sum of money. We've got it in the paragraph above, which compares everything and then whatever it equates to. So I didn't know whether it was an error that we didn't get the sum of money that this increase has given us. It should be significant. And if you haven't got it with you today, Simon, can you send it on? I'll make sure it's in next time. That was all. Thank you.
Councillor Maxine Callow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Lancashire Combined Authority, the sentence goes over onto the next page about working with the Ministry of Justice on the relocation of the courts away from Central Station. Now, that is to be welcome because that building is an eyesore. But I'm just wondering, Madam Mayor, where the courts are going to go. I know at this moment in time that the magistrates are having to travel all over Lancashire. It's costing a lot of money and it's a lot of time for the magistrates to get from A to B. And I just wondered if the leader of the council has any idea if the courts are going to remain in Blackpool or will they be moved to another situation in Lancashire? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on page 9? Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, on the subject of the combined authority, my concern is regarding the One Public Estate programme that we're about to or potentially sign up to. In itself is a great programme if we as a town were to have control over it. And I noticed the report actually indexes that certain councils have tried in the past to get control of such a programme. My worry though is that it will be a Lancashire-wide programme and that we will be potentially surrendering control of some of our public buildings, bearing in mind the arbitrary way that Lancashire has been closing some of its libraries and other buildings, cost reasons admitting, yes, but we would have no control over that potentially, just as Wyatt has had no control over its own libraries. So the question I wanted to ask Councillor Blackburn is, could he explain what the risk is to this council and would it mean we are risking potentially some of our own public buildings? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any more questions, comments, page 9? Right, move over page 10. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm referring to financial monitoring at bottom of page 10 and extremely concerned that our reserves once again are being plundered to a level of less than 3 million, and that the fact we have 7 months to regain our position and revise service and financial plans, that's not going to happen. Not with the current trend that this particular council is delivering at the moment. And if it does happen, I'd be delighted to buy Councillor Blackburn a bottle of whiskey. But I know I'm safe. Did you get that?
Any further questions or comments on page 10? Page 11? No? Councillor Blackburn? Oh, sorry, General. Sorry. Thank you, Councillor Callow. I'm trying to rush along. Councillor Maxine Callow, General comments, questions.
Thank you. Yes, under other business, this refers to the car park on the corner of Devonshire Road and Talbot Road. If we're still paying the money to the NHS, which is something like 30,000 a year for this car park that isn't being used, at this moment in time with Christmas coming up, it's gone, is it? We're not paying it. Oh, I was going to say perhaps we could have a park and ride there for the Christmas period, because I know it has cost an awful lot of money to this council and really was a white elephant. And it was just that I thought that in the Christmas period, and people hopefully will be coming to spend their money in Blackpool to do their Christmas shopping, that we could have a trial for a park and ride. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was a question I never actually wanted to ask. And it actually... No. When you hear the question, you'll see why I didn't want to ask it. And it probably actually falls more into Councillor Campbell's area, but the seriousness of it means I have to ask the leader. This week we've seen some horrible reports about Blackpool in the national press. The Sun have had headlines on its front page in terms of the incident that happened following Strictly. And my concern is obviously what's happened, the damage it's done to our reputation, and the way that that's been used by some to attack the town and all the hard work that's been done by the council and the people of the town to regenerate. The question I wanted to ask is, we have things like Strictly, we have the World Dance Championships where we have high profile events. Will we be now looking at, when those occasions are on in the future, Madam Mayor, to actually increase security in certain renowned areas where there could be potential problems, i.e. Queen's Square or St John's Square, anywhere there could be potential problems at those hotspots, because the cost in terms of our reputational damage when something does go wrong is huge. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any further general questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
Just one, Madam Mayor, a bit of an extension onto the combined authority in regards to the elected mayor. I've had a chance to speak to several colleagues, obviously Conservative colleagues, to appreciate, but some are Labour, funnily enough, across Lancashire, and most are against the elected mayor. And just as a note to Councillor Blackburn, I think perhaps my information tells me there will be at least 3 candidates for the elected mayor. One has the backing of the union. That's what I've heard today. Thank you, Madam.
Any further questions or comments? Right, thank you, Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Williams, on the combined authority, you'll be pleased to know that I had a meeting with the Northern Powerhouse Minister yesterday, having welcomed him to Lancashire some 11 days previously. That meeting went very well. We did discuss the situation in Wyre. The issue in Lincolnshire is that it's the county council that have pulled out. So the county council were in and now out. The county council withdrawing from a combined authority deal busts the deal. The point I made to the Minister was the reason that Lancashire has been so slow in coming forward with proposals was that we decided it might be a better idea to have our falling out at the start and not at the end, as has happened in others. So we had a number of difficult meetings early on. Wyre District Council decided that they didn't want to be a part of the combined authority negotiations at that time. I have a letter from the Minister assuring me that that is in no way an impediment to our progress. However, he will also be pleased to know, I'm sure, that I invited Councillor Gibson to both of our meetings a fortnight ago, which he attended, and the Chief Executive and I went to Wyre this afternoon, where we had a very lengthy meeting where we discussed a wide variety of ways in which the Fylde Coast authorities could cooperate within and without the combined authority. So, you know, we are and we will continue to work together as three local authorities. All stop short of local government reorganisation, which I understand is something that none of us would want to see. But, you know, we are already doing that. We've pledged to do further exploratory work this afternoon. Wyre being outside of the combined authority will not stop the combined authority going ahead. However, I and the Minister would like them in, and I've expressed that to Peter again this afternoon, who I have to say is a lovely guy, and who his thinking around this is moving and developing. He wants to get the best for Wyre. I believe that the best opportunity for Wyre is to join the combined authority. He's not there at the moment, but I think we might get him there. Councillor Clapham, sundry debt collection is up from 70% to 88%. Of what, though, I don't know. But we'll find out. My apologies. Councillor Mrs Callow, Ministry of Justice negotiations are proceeding. I agree with you. I mean, the current building is not fit for purpose. As I think you know, my father is a magistrate who normally sits in Blackburn or Burnley. He is now complaining to me that he's having to drive over to Blackpool to do sittings, so I'm getting it from all angles. We don't know where they'll go, but we are working very hard to make sure that we can offer them a number of different sites within Blackpool, because I think we would all be very keen. And as far as I can see, the bench and the MLJ are very keen to keep magistrates' courts in Blackpool somewhere. We wouldn't want to lose them. But as you quite rightly say, they do need to come off that site. Councillor Galley, one public estate. It is a Lancashire-wide bid, with the exception, if my memory serves me correctly, of the Ribble Valley, whose planners were a bit concerned about it, and we were working to a very tight deadline. We had like a week to get our plans in when we submitted the bid. It's under the auspices of the combined authority, not under Lancashire County Council, and each individual authority has to sign off the plans and the bids that are submitted before they go in. So we're not ceding sovereignty or power or control to anybody. And I do say quite earnestly to opposition members, devolution in this context is about power being devolved from Westminster and Whitehall into Lancashire. It is not about power being devolved to Preston or from Blackpool. That is, and there is no reading of any of those documents, I'm afraid, no evidence that any of you could put before me which would suggest anything else. And to try and imply that this is in some way devolution upwards to the county council or upwards to the combined authority is to mislead yourselves and other people. Please do look into it, and if any of you got any serious questions about it, please come and talk to me, because your reading of it at the moment is inaccurate. Councillor Williams, the reserves. You say this every year. Councillor Callow used to say this every year. 18-year-old Glenn Livett would be very much appreciated. If you buy it now before the rush, you might get a good deal. Councillor Mrs Callow, yeah, we're not paying any money for the car park anymore. We are doing the £1 parking offer over the Christmas period, but we will do a quick viability assessment of a park and ride, won't we, on that site, and we'll let you know if we think it can stack up. But I take all of your points very seriously. Councillor Galley, your question really is not so much one for Councillor Campbell as one for the police. I do understand what you say, but I take the safety and security of all visitors to Blackpool very seriously, and I expect the police to do likewise. I wouldn't want to end up in a situation where we were privileging one event over another. I expect the streets of Blackpool to be safe for everybody all the time. There are always national journalists out there that want to try and knock Blackpool. There always has been. It frustrates me as much as it frustrates you, and it frustrates everybody else. You know, this matter is now in the hands of the police, but I will be meeting again shortly with the Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire, and I will make those points to him. Councillor Williams, right, number of issues here. Firstly, nobody's agreed to an elected mayor for Lancashire. What I have said, and what other leaders in Lancashire have said, is it is clear to us that the Conservative government are saying that if we want a meaningful devolution deal for Lancashire, we will have to have an elected mayor. So it's your guys that are saying this, right? This is not my idea, okay? So that is a situation. We are realistic that if we want a meaningful devolution deal for Lancashire, we will have to have an elected mayor. My task as the chair of the combined authority is to lead Lancashire through those devolution negotiations and to try and get the best possible deal on the table. As and when that deal is on the table, it will be for each of the 15 local authorities in Lancashire to decide whether or not that deal is sufficient for them to be persuaded of the need for an elected mayor. This is the government's agenda, not ours. I also have to say that his obsession with the notion that I want to be the elected mayor of Lancashire really does need to stop, right? I am perfectly content. He argued against the combined authority on the basis that whoever headed the combined authority wouldn't be from Blackpool. He stood up in this chamber. We've got the transcript. They wouldn't be from Blackpool. They wouldn't have Blackpool's interests at heart. Well, guess what? I am, and I do. Yeah? And to have the leader of Blackpool Council heading up the combined authority and devolution negotiations can only possibly be seen as a good thing for Blackpool. The notion that I am doing this because I want to be the elected mayor of Lancashire is not just misguided, but it lacks no basis in fact. I have always served the people of our community in whatever way they've asked me to do it. I've always served the Labour Party in Blackpool in whatever way they've asked me to do it. I will continue to do that. I love the job I have here at the moment. I've made it very, very clear time and time again that I have no further political aspirations other than to do the job that I have now as well as I can do it for as long as my colleagues and the people of Brunswick want me to do it, and I can say no more to him than that.
Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. We move on to the report of the Deputy Leader of the Council, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to present my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions if I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. We start any questions or comments on page 13. Councillor Clapham. Thank you.
Mine's about the Plymouth Road Bridge. The temporary bridge is superb. It's running parallel to the bridge that's being knocked down at B&Q there, Crossley's Bridge. And it's well lit, it's well built, there are passing points on it. It's superb for pedestrians and cyclists like myself. I walk my bike over, Maxine, I don't ride it. But it's really well lit and everything else. It's well designed. But last night, when I go to meetings at the sixth form college as a director, so that's my route. It's made out of marine ply, both the base of the temporary bridge and the sides, but it's the base where the problem is. It was very, very wet last night, and it's just like glass. And it's because there hasn't been an abrasive covering put on to the base of the pedestrian bridge. So when it's dry, you can't do it in wet weather, when it's dry, if you can get someone to put a coating along the base, it will prevent accidents, because there were people slipping about and it's an accident waiting to happen. Thank you.
Any further questions on page 13? Page 14, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a general sort of version on charity fraud prosecution. May I congratulate our officers on successfully prosecuting these really evil people who've been collecting money, supposedly for injured soldiers, and pocketing the lot. This is disgraceful. And I'm pleased to see that further investigations are going on. So congratulations to those officers and the work they've done in getting to them. The second point is about the litter enforcement team. I'm aware that 3GS did a similar scheme in Leeds. And one of the problems they faced there was cash flow. It was getting the money from the people who were fined into the pockets of 3GS. And it was a problem because we had to prosecute, or they had to prosecute, same as we are. And I noticed that we're prosecuting the first 19, but first 19 out of how many? And a 3GS patient enough to wait for the cash, because even if they go to court, they may only get fined £1 a week or whatever. It's going to be a problem. If we can solve it and if we keep them on, I think it's a great idea.
Any further questions on 14? Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not so much a question, and it's something that I've said previously, but it'll probably be my last chance to do it in public in terms of the Anchor Zone Sea Defence. Oh, sorry. Thank you. The Anchor Zone Sea Defence project. Again, I just wanted to put on record a huge thank you to John Blackledge, his team, the full support that we've had with Wire as well, the council in terms of the decision-making process that we've put together, the way we've worked with the public over the last 3 or 4 years, the level of consultation, the level of engagement's been huge. And through that, we've actually come up with a better designed project, a project that has delivered in terms of its expectation and also obviously its primary focus, which is obviously to keep the houses of the area safe from flooding. But most of all for me, it's the template that it's going to give us for all future capital projects. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you, and we are very, very grateful.
Okay. There's no more on 14. Sorry. Councillor Coleman, yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too would like to thank the police officers for bringing the successful case against these fraudsters on ex-service, pertaining to be ex-service charities. I'm so pleased they got them, and I hope that we get everyone who takes money away from those who served our country and been injured and some in some most unbearable and some terrible circumstances. What I would like to remind everyone though is there are many service charities and many people serving those charities who work so hard, do their best, honest, and do everything they can to help those who helped our country. Yes, put them away who do damage. Please remember those. Do not let it stop you supporting those very, very good charities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Right. Any questions? Page 15. Councillor Clapham. Oh. I'm so sorry. You know how terrible my eyesight is. You have to wave well.
It's only a quickie, really. It is about the Anchor Zone Sea Defences, and they are fantastic. And one of our locals had been through it, said it was fine, and then rang me up and complained about potholes. So I said, potholes? In that new stretch, I said, it's pristine. There isn't a pothole, a blemish, or anything on there. And continued to say, yes, but beyond that, you'd have thought these contractors would have carried on and filled in all the other potholes that there are. So I said, where do you want them to go to? Squires Gate, St Anne's, all the way to Preston. I said, there's millions of potholes in this country. I said, when there's a contract written, it's point A to B and everything in between. That's what they adhere to, and it was brilliant. So there are people in this town that will complain about anything and everything. I'm not looking at you. I was looking. I'm not looking at you, Councillor Blackburn. But there we are. You know, there's no satisfying some of them out there. And they probably don't even vote. There you go.
Thank you, Councillor Clapham. Questions on page 15? Councillor Clapham.
It's the procurement list, my usual topic. I have looked at the guides for procurement, and the scoring model seems to vary from contract to contract that we gain. But there doesn't seem to be a fixed weighting or a weighting within it for localisation. Do you know what it is and how it's applied? What percentage weight is given to something becoming a local procurement to help people within Blackpool? I noticed the one that's on there, obviously, recovery of bodies for the coroner's office. There we are. That's the only one that's local. Sad that we need it, but there we are. Thank you.
Any further questions on page 15? No. Page 16. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's regarding the Winter Gardens Conference Exhibition Centre. I mentioned this at the last council, that we seem to be working very slowly on the museum project. We've spent a considerable amount of money on consultation so far, and I'm just wondering, with a new conference centre impacting on what's going to be inside the Winter Gardens, are we actually going to be worried about the space this museum's going to take up? Will there be room for both? And what's the progress report, please?
Any further questions? Page 16? No. Page 17. Councillor Maxine Callow. Sorry, I couldn't see whether it was you or Councillor Callow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Palm Beach Hotel. This is absolutely great news that we're going to have a new hotel there. And it says that it's going to be the Hilton's Hampton brand. I wondered if the portfolio holder could tell me what sort of a hotel this is. Is it a travel lodge or I don't know? So I wondered if she could explain, please. Thank you.
Chairman, I might have an indirect interest in this person because the housing company are having a temporary rate to this year, so could I
Personal interest. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any further questions on page 17? Page 18? Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a basic observation really about the enterprise zone. Where is it? Councillor Smith, I know the answer to this. Yeah, I noticed we had some very sort of temporary-based type of branding down there, like a little banner saying enterprise zone. And it looked about as professional as something that's not very professional. And I just wondered... It wasn't bad, was it? It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But my worry is that's a really popular stretch in terms of traffic flow, and if we're trying to encourage any passing trade who may be a potential investor into the site, we'll need better branding than that. So I just wondered if there is any plans to create a feel and a vibe that represents an enterprise zone rather than something that doesn't. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Staying with the enterprise zone, I note, and I'm quite pleased to see, that 400 jobs have been created and that a further 3,000 jobs will be created. I'd like to know what evidence is this based on, where these 3,000 jobs are coming from. Thank you.
Any further questions on page 18? No. Page 19? No? Oh, Councillor Williams.
Just very straightforward. I was saddened to see that we didn't win the bid for the Great Exhibition of the North. But I wonder, was there a cost to this bid? And what was it? Thank you.
No more page. Sorry, Councillor Luke Taylor. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was great to see that Blackpool had been shortlisted to host the Great North Exhibition in 2018. Sadly, we didn't win. However, everybody involved in the Blackpool bid and around Lancashire should be congratulated for such positive publicity. My question was there any more information on the £15 million legacy fund, how much Blackpool could be eligible for, and how this funding could be potentially used to further art, culture and design in Blackpool and ultimately increase visitor numbers? Thank you.
Any more questions on page 19? No, page 20. Page 20. No. Any general comments or questions? Councillor Maxine Callow.
I'm still on page 20.
Oh.
This bumper season for the resort passes, this news is very, very welcome. But when we were on holiday a few months ago, we were speaking to a couple who'd brought their grandchildren to Blackpool, and they'd stayed in one of our very well family-run hotels on the promenade, had a great time, but they were saying how expensive it was to go anywhere. So I was trying to explain to them about the resort passes. They obviously had no idea. So I just wondered, do we have any arrangements at all with the hotels for them to pass on this good news or even sell the passes? Because this was a wonderful opportunity for this family, you know, to use them instead of coming to me when they knew I was from Blackpool and saying it's terribly expensive as Blackpool, when we've got this wonderful offer for families. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
A couple of issues, Madam Mayor, I might as well do them at the same time. The Magic Club, I'm delighted that you've got the funding for that. I think it's a great idea. And United Utilities, of course, have put the community fund forward for this. Can I remind any of the councillors who have had some funding from United Utilities that it isn't in their best interest to be sitting on any planning applications that they may be putting forward in the future. I think there would be a conflict of interest, and I just want that noting. We may even be part of that, so I'll include myself. And the bumper season and resort passes, yeah, it's been a great season. It's been fantastic, thanks to Brexit. That's what's done it, Brexit.
Councillor Maxine Callow, this is a general one now, is it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Well, it would be remiss of me not to say something about Strictly. How wonderful. I was so proud on Saturday night when I watched it on the television. And it was wonderful. All the shots of Blackpool, all that publicity. And then every few seconds, Blackpool's name was coming up. I had a lump in my throat because, as everybody knows, I love this town. And it was wonderful. And congratulations to everybody who managed to get this wonderful production to Blackpool, and to the production team that did such a wonderful job for Blackpoolers, and the fact that they're now talking about returning year after year. That is wonderful. But it was absolutely great, and well done to everybody who was involved in it. I was very, very proud. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further general questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
A couple of things, if I can, please, Madam Mayor, very quickly. We have had a bumper season. I'm just hoping that reflects in the collections on the illuminations, and can we have an update on that? Hopefully it's going to be higher this year than previous years. Secondly, it's something that we've all had complaints about, this horse dung. It's still happening along the promenade. Horse dung, horse droppings, horse poo, nappies on horses. I've actually had a report which was commissioned in 2010. This was done in Liverpool, testing horse for E. coli in their droppings. And it seems that E. coli, there is an antibiotic resistance strain of E. coli in horse dung. I don't think it's any threat to humans, but it has been pointed out in this report. Researchers conclude that in Britain, horses may provide both recipients and sources of antibiotic resistance and multiple drug resistance, and an extensive reservoir of microbiological resistance.
Sorry, the 15 minutes
genes that
can
be sorted out with the nappies, please.
So,
How far?
how long?
Very quick.
Madam Mayor, assuming that Councillor Williams is going to move on to something slightly more pressing than horse dung, we're happy to vote them an extra 5 minutes for questions.
Well, I am. I'm pressing on about people's health, because horse dung on the promenade shouldn't be there. And if it's washed down into our water, our standing water supplies, it can pose a threat, not only to our beach cleansing, because that's where the
just a
water
moment,
goes.
Councillor Williams. It's been proposed 5 minutes extension. Are we all in? There are others who wish to speak, Councillor Williams. All in favour? If we're all agreed. Thank you. Councillor Galley.
Thank you very much, everyone. You're very kind. Thank you. Right, I had 3 questions. I'm going to cut them down to 2 so I can get this 5 minutes in quickly. The first one was, it was a shame to see there was no mention of the illuminations in the report. I thought you did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed them, and it was really good fun, especially the Lightpool festival and the fact we were trying to get people into St John's Square. And what stood out for me was I went to watch Captain... That's the one, thank you. And what I really was impressed with, though, was the fact that we had a major event on and we still were able to operate buses and taxis through St John's at the same time, which I believe strengthens the case to reopen St John's, both to taxis and buses moving forward. So I'd like to see that's something to be seriously considered in terms of the impact there. But the main question that I did have, though, is concerning some points that have been made about United Utilities. And obviously in terms of a business, it's a major investor into Blackpool at the moment across different parts of the file. And I noticed in one of the Cabinet member decisions that have come through, it was made by the Cabinet member for Housing Procurement and Income Generation regarding the Foxhall Village. And it says, to note that if United Utilities continuation is not received by the end of the financial year, another report will be submitted to the Executive explaining how United Utilities' contribution of £400,000 is to be funded. Now, obviously, there are concerns across the town in terms of the expectation that United Utilities have given in terms of compensation to projects and the actual delivery of what those projects are now going to look like. So I just wondered if Councillor Campbell could actually explain what that 400,000 is for, why they haven't paid, and what will happen if they don't. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. If that's all the questions and comments. Councillor Robertson.
I would just like to say that whilst I was queuing up to watch the Deal or No Deal show up at the Tower, which was a very good show, the comedy carpet was being abused by roller skaters on skateboards. And this is a continuous thing. And if the council could have a look into that, because it is damaging the comedy carpet. Thank you.
Thank you. If that's all. Yeah. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, I'll try my best to get... That's a lot of questions. Thanks. Okay, it's a big report, though. Yeah, that's because I do lots of things. Okay, so start. Councillor Clapham. Yeah, the bridge. I've not actually seen that bridge myself, yeah, because I've avoided that. But you say there's a problem with the base. Obviously, that's a very operational matter. I wouldn't know anything about it, but I will instruct officers to have a look at it for you. Councillor Williams, the bogus charity collectors, yes, extremely happy about that. The gentleman in question abused the trust of the people of Blackpool and various other places as well in gathering that money, and none of it went where he claimed it was going to go. And we will be very strict on people who do come into this town and make these kind of collections, and the money does not end up where it is. As you're aware, there are other people we're looking into at the moment. 3GS cash flow. First 19, now, I think I might have to write to you about this because I don't know off the top of my head how many there actually are. I do know the first 19 we're going in is almost like a job lot, if you will, to the courts. So I will try and find out that figure for you. We have, as the report says, fined over 150 people and shall continue to do so. This is a pilot with 3GS. I can't say for sure if it is going to work, but it's certainly something that's going down very well with the residents of the town. So it's something I'd like to continue if possible. Maybe not with 3GS, who knows. Councillor Galley, Ankersholm, yes, I went down to see it, as you know. It was very, very cold. Yeah, it looks absolutely fantastic, and I myself would also like to thank all the officers involved. The amount of work they went into communicating with the residents made it much easier, I think. And also I'd just like to thank Councillor Jackson for all his hard work over the years to do with the sea defences. He told me today that there's actually a plaque in Stargate where it all started, and we'll try and see if we can get you one at the end where it finished as well, Fred. Councillor Coleman, yeah, just to reiterate what you said, it is dreadful, you know, as I said about Councillor Williams. I would encourage everyone to actually give money to reputable national charities if they're unsure where their money is going. Councillor Clapham, Ankerson, potholes, yeah, we can't get them to continue and do potholes, unfortunately, yeah, but we're always going to get somebody complaining. There were people complaining when we went down to see the Ankerson see the fences, so, you know, you can't please everyone, unfortunately. Procurement, scoring model, fixed waiting for local procurement, that's a very detailed question. I will have to write to you about that, if that's okay. Councillor Mrs Callow, it's a Hampton by Hilton, which will be a boutique hotel. So it's not like a travel lodge or anything like that. It's a very, very classy affair. I've not been along to see it myself, but I am being told that there's a great big, an even bigger hole in the Palm Beach than there used to be. So it's well on its way. Maybe that was the wind, I don't know. It's well on the way to being demolished, and we're very hopeful that it'll be down completely within the next couple of weeks. So that will be one thing that's rid of. It'll be great. Councillor Galley, the enterprise zone. Yeah, I didn't see that banner myself, personally. But the leader has just explained to me that the actual branding of the enterprise zone was only agreed about a week before the minister's visit, so it was probably a bit of a rush job. But I am sure it will, you know, a proper one will go up as soon as possible. Councillor Williams, the Great Exhibition of the North. Yeah, yeah, don't worry about that. I'll deal with that. Great Exhibition of the North. Disappointing that we didn't get it, but fair play to Newcastle. I think they deserve it. That actually, it was a joint bid. It was a Lancashire bid, and for us, it was officer time that it cost. Councillor Taylor, yes, there is a legacy. We are unsure as to the moment exactly what form that will take, but as soon as I have any details, I will actually let members know. Councillor Mrs Callow, the resort passes, yeah, hotels. I'm very, very surprised that they were in a hotel that isn't advertising it. I thought we got everywhere, to be honest with you, the resort pass. But it's also on the Visit Blackpool website. So maybe it's just a case of doing a little bit of work, maybe with the smaller hotels who aren't advertising it yet. But they are great value for money. And I'm also trying to work on a residence one at the moment as well. So fingers crossed we'll have it up and running for next year. Councillor Williams, United Utilities funding and about planning applications, I would have to take advice from the monitoring officer on that, to be honest with you. I couldn't say if that would be right or not. And I don't think it's got anything to do with Brexit, the success, frankly, of my season. How dare you? No, I think, you know, I was reminded today that we had the Lord Mayor's show on the television on the Saturday, which was fantastic, and Lawrence, and it would have been better if I had been there, yeah, but there we go. Someone else was. And the float, and, you know, the dance troupe, it was fantastic. Then we had the DIY SOS, which brought a big lump to my throat as well. Then we had Strictly. We've had an amazing season, and, you know, the slight mishap that happened, I don't think can take a shine off that season at all. Councillor Williams, the donations to Illuminations, I don't have those figures yet, but I'll make sure that, you know, once I do, yeah. Horse dung on the prom. Yeah, I actually raised that myself a few weeks back, yeah. And I'm reliably informed that we do have a meeting with the Landau drivers in the diary for next week to discuss that very issue. It is difficult once it gets in the promenade because of the you know, the features of it. Wasn't anything to do with me, that promenade, so I don't know. yeah. Councillor Galley, the Illuminations light pool, fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And it was Captain Kronos, I believe. Yes. It was brilliant. And you know, getting a Yoko Ono light feature was just beyond me. I thought she was going to come, but she didn't, unfortunately. That would have been even better. But as for St John's reopening to taxis and buses, don't think so, no. For one thing, they've taken the shelter away. Have you not noticed that? Yeah, that's gone now. It's gone. No, that's a waste of money. The United Utilities thing, Councillor Williams, sorry. Was it Councillor Williams? Yeah. The Foxhall Village. I will have to write to you about that as well. I can't. Oh, no. Councillor Galt, sorry. I'm just that used to me asking me questions. Sorry. I will have to write to you about that one. I don't have the details here, so if you don't mind, I'll do that. And Councillor Robertson, roller skaters abusing the comedy carpet. I'm not skateboarders. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure what we can do about that, to be honest with you. I don't think that it's a massive issue, but I will ask officers to look into it, but I'm not going to give you any reassurances that we can stop that from happening, because it's for everybody to enjoy the comedy carpet. Yeah, yeah. And just one last question I have here from Councillor Williams, who was asking me about the conference centre and the museum and the progress on it. That actually falls under Councillor Blackburn, so if it's okay with you, Madam Mayor, I'd like that pass that across to Councillor Blackburn. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The answer to Councillor Williams' repeated question is not going to change. We are proceeding with the museum proposals at an appropriate pace. If it is the right thing to do, and if it is affordable in capital terms, and if it will break even or there and thereabouts in revenue terms, then we'll do it. If it won't do any of those things, then we won't do it, and that's been the situation from the start. We continue to work with the operators of the Winter Gardens and with the Heritage Lottery Fund around the viability of it. The question of the conference centre, which he was opposed to last time he mentioned it, I'm pleased to see he's now in favour of it. Now he's added the two figures together. The government announced regional growth fund allocation today in the autumn statement by region. We will get the detail as to how that is broken down by county within the next week or so. However, I remain extremely confident that we will be successful in our funding bid. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We move on to the Cabinet Secretary's report now. Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pleased to present the report and happy to take on board any questions, comments or observations. Thank you.
Right, we start with page 21. Page 22, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's the top subject, children's social care. We're all aware of this, and I think we're all concerned over it. Currently, we've got 504 children, LAC, with a total current allocated cases of 2009. We all have the responsibility, Councillor Kane, Madam Mayor, to be corporate parents and look after these children. But I've been warning for years on the cost, the rising cost that this is causing us, now currently over £16 million a year. We've tried just about every method in the book to get these numbers under control without success. And it's even worrying that we're going in the wrong direction again. We've had consultants, we've had reorganisation, we've had structural reviews, we've tried everything. Yet, despite having similar demographic, sociographic and economic pressures such as Hull, Brighton, South Wales, Tyneside and Liverpool, we are still the highest authority with looked after children in the UK. We've got, yes we are, I'm afraid. You don't agree?
Oh, of course I agree.
Oh, thank you. You looked as though you weren't agreeing with
Thank you. We don't have a debate.
I'm sorry, it was just a friendly chat. As we've tried all those methods, and you've got it here in black and white, Councillor Kane, what are we going to do? We've got to look from the top down and go right through this. And I'm sure the leader's now going to tell me they're doing everything they can, which I've heard this speech before. And as a social worker, he should know what's happening. But we've got to get to grips with this. It's essential. It's financially dangerous, and it's terrible for the children who can't stay in Blackpool. They've been taken out of the region, Madam Mayor, away from the families, any chance of the extended families, making visiting expensive. We should be ashamed of this. we should be under control. Yes, we should,
Councillors.
because we should be doing more.
Councillors. Thank you.
We should be doing more. We can't keep making excuses for government cuts and funding and deprivation. We've got to get to the bottom of this for everyone's sake.
Councillor Maxine Callow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's the same subject. If memory serves me correctly, some months ago, maybe 6 or 8 months ago, I believe that we got a government grant of something like 40 million, but it was going to be the NSPCC that were going to hold the purse strings. But this money was to be spent in Blackpool regarding children's social care. An awful lot of money, but I wondered what progress is being made. Where are we up to? I don't know if I've got the figure right, 40 million. It is correct. It's an awful lot of money. It may have been over a 3-year period. I can't remember, Madam Mayor. But I wondered if the portfolio holder could say what progress was being made, if any, and what this money was being spent on, and how much money had been spent so far. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Williams supposes that he knows what I'm going to say because he saw me looking quizzically at him. Councillor Mrs Callow, however, has just helped to draw attention to what was going through my mind at that particular moment. We've had 2 questions from the opposition on children's services, and there may be more to come. I hope there is. One asked, with a basis in fact, that we've had £45 million, actually, from the Better Start scheme over 10 years. I shall let Councillor Kane answer the rest of your question, quite rightly asking what is being done with that money and what impact is it having. And then we have Councillor Williams' question, a question which is embedded in ignorance, frankly, of the situation and the circumstances that the town finds itself in. To try and use the number of looked after children that we have as an indication of some sort of failure of the local authority is both ignorant and offensive to all of those people concerned, right? I am, as he says, a former social worker, and I am a qualified social worker. And I stand here before him tonight and tell him that it is my firm belief that every single one of those children needs to be in public care. We do not take children into care for fun. We do it because they are at risk of substantial harm. And we will continue to execute our statutory duty to protect children from harm, no matter what it costs. One of the reasons that our reserves are so low, Madam Mayor, is that we are currently running a £4 million overspend on children's services. If Councillor Williams can find any evidence of any of our members ever suggesting that this is in some way linked to government cutbacks, then he can have his bottle of whiskey back, because we've never done that, because we've funded children's services for every penny that they've needed, and we will continue to do so. That gets increasingly difficult year on year. But Councillor Williams, if he wants to get involved in the day-to-day work of the 600 or so people, including Councillor Kane, who live and breathe child protection in this town, he is welcome to do so. If, however, he wants to sit on the sidelines, carp, and try and make political capital out of us, he can forget it, because we're not engaging with it.
Any further questions on page 22? Councillor Clapham.
Mine's on the edge of this. It's about court cases in Blackpool. I've been told that some of the court cases involving the protection of young people have been delayed because supporting documentation was either missing or poor. It seems to happen quite frequently when there are cases from Blackpool, and less frequent from authorities round about. The point is that these cases are either delayed, can't go forward because the paperwork isn't up to scratch from officers, sadly, within our authority. Yep. Can Councillor Kane look into this matter as the safeguarding of vulnerable young people is paramount, and this is part of the problem. I didn't know about any of this at all till I was approached by a senior JP and said, what can you do about this? So I thought I'll bring it here tonight.
Any further questions on page 22? Page 23. Page 24. Page 25. Page 26. Page 27. Page 20. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm getting carried away with nobody asking questions. Sorry about that, Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was just a comment on page 27, if I may go back.
Yes, it was me rushing.
It's all right, no problem. I just wanted to make a comment around the residential care table that you can see in front of you. Blackpool has a high proportion of outstanding and good residential care homes, and I would like to thank both our staff teams who go out and work alongside those residential care homes to make sure that they are the best services that we can possibly provide for the residents of this town. And I'd also like to thank the residential care homes who have worked alongside our teams and with our staff to make sure that they are providing the best possible service for our residents. And I do think the staff team really do need to be congratulated on their work over the last 12 months, because some of the work has been particularly hard, and we have got quite far with some of our residential care homes because of the work that the staff have done, and I'd just like that recording. Thank you.
Thank you. Page 28. Oh, go on then. Councillor Clapham, seeing as we went back.
I must agree with Councillor Cross. When I read this report, I thought how superb this is, because on the Health and Wellbeing Board there is so much work and money now going into support within the community to keep people out of the hospitals, the bed blocking situation and everything else. And this shows that we've got it right in Blackpool, and we should be proud of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Page 28. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I noticed it mentions the corporate parent pledges and so on, and we're coming up to a year from when we had the corporate parent conference at the Winter Gardens. It was a hugely successful event, and I just wondered if we'd be having another at all, because part of the plan there was to get this as an established format and a regular format. So I just wondered if we'll be seeing any more of them. Obviously, it will lead only to greater pledges and greater support for our children. I know it's something the Chief Executive pushed for at the time. So the other question I had was, it's a shame Councillor Jackson's just left. In his old job of economic development, you used to regularly see the work of Get Started reported in his reports. And I noticed there's obviously a good mention on this page about the work of Connections and so on. And I just wondered if there was a relationship between Get Started and Connections at all, in terms of those youngsters who are little diamonds in the business world, but they just don't know it yet, in terms of being able to start their own businesses and so on. So I just wondered if there was any link. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further questions on page 28? Page 29? Any general questions or comments? No? Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quite astounded at some of the opening questions there in respect to our children's social services. We try and provide as much information as we can. I think that, you know, to try and make a pop and a slant, to be honest, at the fantastic work that our management and our social workers do for the children of this town, I think, quite frankly, is appalling and a disgrace. And I would like to say that it's all right, people jeering and from the opposition benches, Madam Mayor, but I do find it quite heart-wrenching when you know, the severity of the problems that we face here in Blackpool, whilst we're not exclusive to those problems, some of those problems that we encounter and our social workers encounter on a day-to-day basis when they're confronted with angry parents. And I've got to say, they do a fantastic job, our people there. They do a fantastic job under difficult circumstances. A lot of the situations that we face with our families and the children are extremely complex. They're not simple cases. I do acknowledge that the workload is quite severe. It was only a few months ago when I gave the go-ahead to the Director of People to bring in more social workers to deal with those problems. Regarding the responsibilities, it's something that I, along with the rest of the team on this side, take extremely responsible. I'm the chair of the corporate parent panel. Some good work that we do there with cross-party support, and we're all corporate parents, and we're really, really extremely proud of the work that we do as well as corporate parents. But I don't think that we deserve to be berated due to the extent of the situation. And things will get better. You know, there is talk at the moment, and oh, that figure's just going up and up and up. It's not going to go up and up and up. We are doing everything that we can. We're involving other agencies. We're looking at any best practice. And this isn't a case of me standing here and just attack. Please come on board with us on this one. This is a journey that I and the management team cannot do alone. We need everybody to chip in here. And I'd welcome any cross-party support there. It's a genuine plea to see what we can do different. There will be some changes happening in the new year that I'm not privileged to announce to the Chamber this evening, but I certainly will be bringing some of those changes to this Chamber and keeping everybody informed of the developments, because what has happened in the past clearly isn't good enough. We've got to get better. We've got to get better, and under my watch, I'll assure you that we will get better, or else I won't have this job in 12 months' time. And I'm being governed by the leader of the council to ensure that I hold officers to account, that we do things differently. I'm working extremely close with the Director of People and the Chief Executive to look at how we can make things better. And I'll assure you, we will make things better. By hook or by crook, we will make things better, because this is not going to go away. This is fundamentally the #1 issue in this town, and we've got to make sure that we do something and do something different. And that's what I intend to do whilst I've got the responsibilities that I've been given by the leader. So I think the government grant, Councillor Mrs Cavill, you mentioned about the government grant. The leader was right to point out it is a £45 million grant over 10 years. That's in addition to the grant that we've recently just been given for the Head Start project, which is a further 10 million over 5 years. What I would say, though, there's a lot of work going on with the Better Start, and a lot of money and a lot of projects that are starting and making a difference, and how we engage with people. And the Head Start is for 0 to 4s, so it's the young people and the unborn, and we're doing a lot of work with pregnant mothers and supporting them. But what I will organise, I sit on the executive board of Better Start, I will organise through Better Start a briefing session solely on Better Start, because there's quite a lot going on, and Merle Davis, who fronts that up through the NSPCC, so we can give you a full breakdown. I haven't got the figures with me, but I think to give people a briefing and to get more people involved in projects that are going out in the there are lots of projects there now, lots of lots of dads getting involved. We're trying to get dads involved more, and so there's a lot of work going on within the Better Start project. I'll arrange with Merrill to get a councillor's briefing on that, because I think it's worthwhile to do that. Councillor Blackburn, I've just got to endorse everything you said there, and child protection is our #1 priority, and it will continue to be so. Councillor Clapham, you mentioned about court cases being delayed due to paperwork. Just one point there, I'm not sure where you got the information from, because unless I've got this right, you mentioned JPs, and it's actually district judges that deal with children's cases like that. So I don't know whether it's a friend of a friend, but that's just a point there. It is district judges and not JPs. Safeguarding is paramount. You mentioned that. I've already said that. That is fundamental. I sit on the safeguarding board. And again, you know, when people say, is it, isn't it? And are all those people really needed to be looked after? Well, I can assure you that I asked the Assistant Director of Children's Services to look at each and every case, and she's analysed every one and said that every child that is currently under our looked after children, and by the way, they don't like to be called looked after children, from the corporate parent panel, they like to be called our children, which I would hope that we can adopt and adapt that saying that they're our children. Again, our children are really fundamental. With the paperwork you mentioned, though, there's a delay. If there's a delay, we can only say that the delay might not be caused through, it may be just pressure of work, and they've got to have it right. But I don't know. Nobody's come to me before and said there's problems at the courts. Now you've raised it, so I will take that up. I haven't got the answer to that because I wasn't aware, but I'm glad you've raised it. The director's in here tonight, so we'll pick that one up and make sure that we're not delaying in any shape or form any cases appertaining to children. Councillor Cross, you mentioned about residential care homes, and I'm really pleased that you plucked this out of the report, because it's a real good news story. And, you know, it's fantastic that we've got so many outstanding and good care homes. I want every care home in Blackpool to be good or outstanding. I want everything to improve. I want all the schools and the academies to become good and outstanding. And our standards have got to go up in every shape or form, and any support that we can get for that, I appreciate people coming on board and getting together on this one, because the standards are good. And let's hope that the media pick up on it as well when we've got good things, instead of splashing the little negative story in one of the national papers, which you referred to before, Councillor Galley, that it's appalling. And they pick up on the smallest thing, blow it out of proportion, and the fantastic work that's going on in the town, you're lucky if they put it in a little margin. It's appalling on some of the national papers, but on saying that, I hope they pick up on some of the positives. Again, Councillor Clapham, you sit on the Health and Wellbeing Board that I chair. There's lots of good work going on there. Challenging times for all the people that are involved in the partnerships on the Health and Wellbeing Board, but you've seen the improvements, and again, let's hope we're heading in the right direction. And yes, your term, you said it, got it right there, and let's continue and be proud of what we've done. The last one, Councillor Galley, the corporate parent, corporate conference that was held. Last week we had a meeting, the corporate parent panel. We're in discussions, the meeting before, we're in discussions then. I can tell you and confirm that we will have another conference. It will be, we're working that up, and it's going to probably be in February time, we're looking, and we're just trying to work with the young people, because we want more pledges and we want it to be a bigger, better conference, and we hope that each and every councillor in this chamber comes and supports that, because it was tremendous. And you heard the stories of the children's story, and that was quite heart-wrenching when it happened, and that's going to continue. So hopefully that will get cross-party support, and anybody who's out there listening who's got any businesses at all that can give a pledge, send that pledge in to us, and we'll get that through to the conference. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Move on to item 6 on the agenda, the Blackpool Tramway extension to North Station second report. Councillor Campbell to propose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't really plan on saying much about this. This is the second time it's come to Council, and members can see from the recommendations what we're actually asking. And that's all I really have to say at the moment.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'd like to second and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we just need to be a little transparent and honest in terms of the delivery of this eventually. Because if we go ahead, as you're aware, most of the Conservatives are against the scheme, but of course we are outnumbered. We are outnumbered, Madam Mayor. But the RTA have just recently insisted on Manchester putting some bollards to separate the trams from from pedestrians and cyclists in Manchester, which look frankly awful. But the reason why they've done them is because there's been 7 fatalities in the last 14 months in Manchester between pedestrians, cyclists and trams. And in Blackpool, we've had 5 collisions between vehicles and trams up to August this year, clearly showing that in some cases shared spaces with vehicles and pedestrians doesn't work. But then in the extreme, you go to Fleetwood, and of course it's been working for years, except I was driving through Fleetwood just this week, and it was raining very heavily, and a cyclist in front of me skidded on the tram tracks and ended on the floor. It was a girl, and she was badly bruised, I think, from her experience. I just wonder if the RTA are going to insist that we do have to have the same restrictions when this goes ahead, or if this goes ahead down Talbot Road. Thereby, we're probably restricting all other traffic down there. I'm not so sure if you can answer the question, but I just wonder if it had crossed your mind. Thank you.
Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Most of the Conservative councillors are against the tramway extension. Did everybody else hear that as well? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just less than a year ago, there was an article published in the Blackpool Gazette which said it was by a councillor, Tony Williams. And it had his photograph next to it, and it was entitled Link Town Retail to Rail, in which he says, and these are all quotes, "This new track can provide a smooth exchange for rail travellers arriving in Blackpool. This will bring the Talbot Gateway Central Business District alive, not only serving the local community, but also provides easy access for non-resident shoppers. Blackpool desperately needs a new transport interchange, and we promised to deliver this in our own manifesto. The proposed interchange was a large part of my own group's commitment and plan to revitalise not just this part of town, but to bring some common sense to our transport and retail offer." So we read that, and obviously we were a little bit confused, Madam Mayor, because Councillor Williams has written less than 12 months ago in the newspaper at length about how much he wants a tram to go up Talbot Road. We know that when Councillor Callow was the leader of the council, they installed points at the just outside North Pier to enable this future development to happen. But to enable the future development to happen, there could be no other reason for installing points, Madam Mayor, I assume, and then burying them. So then, one of my more creative colleagues managed to track down the answer. Councillor Galley, he's trying to tell you the answer to what he knows I'm going to say. One of my more creative colleagues managed to track down a document which very few people have ever seen, and it was entitled the Conservative Party's Manifesto for the 2015 local elections. And this part of it was clearly written by Councillor Galley. It's clearly the work of a committee of some sort. But under the transport section, it says, "Surely it must be possible to get a tram up Talbot Road to the station." In their manifesto, Madam Mayor, less than 12 months ago in the newspaper, Councillor Williams supporting a tramway up Talbot Road. Yet last time we discussed this, everybody voted against it apart from Councillor Galley. Now he's telling us that most Conservatives are against it. They were for it less than 12 months ago in the newspaper and for it at the last local elections. They campaigned on it. Yet in the Tilsley by-election, they called it the tram to nowhere. I presume he's going to come up with the dance of the 7 positions and now say that he meant something in between the two. But it really is rather confusing, Madam Mayor, and very disappointing that the lead opposition group, well, the only opposition group, can't come up with a coherent policy on this or indeed anything else.
Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. Excuse me, any further speakers on this? Councillor Callow, Councillor Peter Callow.
I was born in this town and brought up in this town, and the interchange there at Talbot Square didn't go up Talbot Road at all. went up Clifton Street, and on Church Street, and on Whitegate Drive, round by the Oxford. So you're putting words in my mouth, I think, aren't you?
So, point of order, Madam Mayor. I think there must be some confusion here. I'm talking about the new tramway, not the 1950s.
No, it's not a point of...
Personal explanation.
Carry on.
I'm actually talking about the junction there at Talbot Square. And you know what I'm talking about, because it's not necessarily for trams to go up Talbot Road. Quite straightforward.
Councillor Blackburn.
Absolutely.
Any further speakers? Councillor Galley. Oh, sorry, Councillor Maxine Kelly. I'm sorry, I keep thinking your arm belongs to Councillor Galley.
No, Madam Mayor. Some of what has been said this evening, I've not heard of it before. I didn't know about the report in the Gazette, but that's by the by. When it's been mentioned that we put these points in, if we did put them in, because I've got a good memory and I can't remember anything about this, but what we years and years ago, has been said earlier, is that the trams did go up Clifton Street. But some of the people on the other side, Madam Mayor, and I'm not being disrespectful, haven't lived in the town all that long. You know, some of us were born here. We know of the confusion. We know of the confusion, and we know why they removed a lot of the trams, because they were causing congestion. But since all this, we've listened to the public, we've listened to the taxi drivers, we've listened to people that we know, and it's been surprising. People have said to me, can I ask you, are you in agreement with the trams going up Talbot Road? And I've listened to these people. Even the Catholic Church here on Talbot Road, they don't want them. The priest has mentioned it in his sermon, because a very good friend of mine is a regular churchgoer there. So a lot of people are opposed to it, and we've listened to these people, or I have, and that's why in my heart of hearts, I can't agree with the tram going up there, up Talbot Road, and apart from anything affecting the taxi drivers and other people, we've listened to what people have been saying, Madam Mayor, and I am going to vote against this because of what the people in Blackpool have been saying to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callow. Any further speakers before we move to the vote? Oh, yeah, and the right to reply. No? Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to say much more than has already been stated, apart from the fact that people could object, and there were 4 objections, and I didn't see any from that side of the chamber. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. We'll move to the vote then. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Those against? Thank you, it's carried. Right, we'll move on to item 7, which is the constitutional changes, pages 47 to 60. Councillor Blackburn, speak on it.
Happy to move the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Formally second, reserve my right to speak, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers on this? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are parts of this which I agree with, but there's some parts, obviously, that I don't. I think the devolution of allowing the executive to actually make decisions on financial matters up to 500,000 just because Blackburn and Darwin do isn't a good enough reason, and I don't think the process should. Am I in the wrong place? I think it's on page 54. Yeah. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think it should still be a key decision. I think it should still go the process. as we've done before. There's been nothing wrong with it so far. So on that point alone, I'm not going to vote for it. Thank you.
Any further speakers? No? You have the right to reply, Councillor Blackman.
I want to congratulate Councillor Williams for actually trying to find something substantial on which to hang his opposition. But I mean, it's clear as we move forward, particularly in terms of the programme of investment that we plan to roll out over the next few years, not least in terms of the housing company, which needs to acquire properties at an appropriate price and at an appropriate speed, that particular provision in itself is absolutely vital. And I have to say, Blackburn with Darwin is a very nice place. It's a very good idea to follow what they do.
Thank you, Councillor Blackman. We'll move to the vote. All those in favour of the report, please show. Against? That's carried. Thank you. We had to count twice. Move to item 8 on the agenda, proper officer designation, and it's Councillor Blackman to vote.
We are required to appoint public health medical consultants as proper officers in relation to port medical officers, the well-known port of Blackpool, the public health ships regulations and the public health aircraft regulations. As everybody knows, we have a thriving airport, which Councillor Williams is a great fan of. And therefore we propose to appoint all of the people listed at paragraph 5.3. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Collett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll second this and refuse my right to speak.
Reserve
the
right
right
to
to
speak.
speak. Oh, come on.
Well done, Councillor Collett. Any speakers on this, please? No? We'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Any against? No? Because we are unanimous. Thank you. Item 9 is the report of the Independent Remuneration Panel, Councillor Blackman's favourite word. And yes, Councillor, you're eager to say it, aren't you? Go on, Councillor Blackman, to propose.
Madam Mayor, gives me You think you'd have taken the pressure off there, wouldn't you?
Yes.
It gives me great pleasure to remove the report of the Independent Remuneration Panel. I was sat on the train back from London the other day going over and over and over it in my head, and then I realised I was saying it out loud, and the person opposite me was wondering what was wrong with me. Indeed. So I'm happy to move the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Can I formally second it? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers? No? We move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. We finish unanimous again. Thank you very much, councillors. I declare the meeting closed. Oh, can you reach me back, please, Mark? Sorry. Thank you very much.